I'm Marcus Coward, and this is Wake Up New Bedford. I'm here with Hendrick Hernandez-Resto. Happy to have you.
Always happy to be here, man.
And so we talked about a lot of very necessary, but a little bit, at times, intense history about New Bedford, about Indigenous history. And so I'm really interested to talk about your art at this point. And I would love to start with when you first were introduced to Nas.
Man, Nas happened when the Nas and Jay-Z beef happened.
Okay, talk about it.
Right. I was a big Jay-Z fan at the time.
As was everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
And I did not listen to Nas, and I did not really particularly feel like Nas was appealing to me. And I heard Takeover, and then I heard Ether. And I was not happy with Ether because it was so good. And then I told everybody, I remember telling somebody in my neighborhood that, you know, Nas is whack. And they were like, bro, you don't know what you're talking about. You need to listen to Nas.
Yeah.
And when I got my hands on, I can't even remember what album it was. It was the one that had If I Ruled the World on it. So I think it might have been It Was Written or not. Yeah, right? It was written. And I heard how much there was similarity between what Nas was saying and how I was rhyming at the time.
Okay.
And I was like, whoa, wait a second. I got this completely wrong.
Yeah.
And I just kept finding more and more songs. There was you couldn't find music on the internet at the time. This was like 99, 2000. It was like 2001, so it was a little harder to find music on the internet at that time. It wasn't what it was. It wasn't what it is now.
Yeah.
And then I kept stumbling on different Nas records, and he was speaking knowledge, and he was speaking truth, and he was speaking about Black history. And even though I myself am not Black, the Black community is what raised me.
Ooh, yeah.
The Black community saw me and said, you like rhymes? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, then you belong over here with us. And I was hanging with as many people as I could that cared about hip hop. And I even remember my Puerto Rican brethren in high school being like, you think you're Black? And I'm like, why do you think that? He's like, because you're always hanging with them, but you never hang out with us. And I'm like, they accept me. They let me be me. I don't need to be cool. I don't need to be anything. I just like rap, and I rhyme well, and they like that.
Yeah.
And I've been in that group. Black culture was the culture that raised me.
Wow.
Latino culture was at home, but out in the community, the Black community took me in. And something that I've always seen with plenty of people from different cultures. The Black culture is always the first one to open their arms and invite people in, and not gatekeep and not G-check anybody. And sometimes we get hurt because of that. Sometimes we get hit because of that, and it doesn't help the community because we just let everybody in. And I was lucky enough to get my foot in the door, and the Black community let me stay. And I'm grateful for that, because I feel like that's my culture as much as Latino culture is my culture. And I feel like those are my people as much as Latino people are my people, as the Black community is my community too. And a friend of mine told me the other day, he goes, you're not African American, but you sure are Black. I was like,
I love that.
I'll take it. I'll take it, big dog. So I've always felt that. And Nas raised me at a time where my stepfather and my mom were getting a divorce. I didn't have a man in the household. And it's not, sometimes people hear this and they think it's wrong. Young men need men. Young men need men in their household. We need father figures. We need brothers. We need guy friends. Yeah. Right? We need to have male camaraderie. Bromance is something that we need.
Yes.
And I thrive for that. I love my relationships with my guy friends, and I value them thoroughly. And Nas raised me through lyrics and taught me, you know, play it cool. That's the old school rule, man. Keep your ears to the street, you'll never lose, man. And it just taught me code and taught me knowledge and taught me how to move through a neighborhood that was not dangerous, but it wasn't bred for me to succeed in. And, you know, came out, and I realized positivity was something that we could talk about. And I named my son Nazir. I named my son Nazir because I love Nas that much. I'm lucky enough that my wife would take that into consideration because she could have easily said, nah, dog, that ain't happening. But Ebony Ocasio, who I've been with for 20 years and is the only woman I've ever been with, when she got pregnant with our son, we said Elias Nazir Hernandez would be the name, and then Rafael Ramirez, who I was in a rap group with, his mother said, no, Nazir Elias sounds much better. And I looked at Ebony and she said, yeah, let's go with it. And we were, you know, lucky enough
Yeah.
to be able to name, I could say that I named my son after my favorite rapper, and that's because he had that much of an impact in my life. Nas had a fellowship at Harvard. It was the first MC to ever do that. The Nas ain't no joke. And he's been a figure in the black community. Dr. Cornel West and Michael Eric Dyson and a few other scholarly educators wrote a book several years ago called Splitting Atoms, or Breaking Atoms, I believe it is, and it was a breakdown of Nas's Illmatic. And I don't know too many other rap albums that got that treatment.
Yeah.
So Nas is a figure in my life and will continue to be a figure in my life. It was somebody who I'm super proud of. I was able to see him in concert. I've been to maybe 3 concerts, KRS-One, Master Ace, and I saw Nas at Foxwoods. And when I saw Nas rap at Foxwoods, I said, I don't want to be on this side of the stage anymore. I need to go back. I had quit rapping at that time.
Okay.
And Nas was the reason why I came back.
How old were you?
At that time, I was in my mid-20s. I was in my early 20s,
Yeah.
really. Like right after I became a dad. I had stopped rapping for like 3 years. It's 2015 to 2018. I didn't want to rhyme no more. I just thought I could have been a doctor. I could have been a lawyer. And I felt like the music industry version of hip-hop, not the culture, but the business of hip-hop duped me into thinking that if I just rhymed well enough, that I could do anything, and it just wasn't the truth. There was a lot more to it than just rhyming really well and being cool. And New Bedford wasn't set up for me to run into anybody that I needed to run into to get those opportunities. So, you know, I was lucky enough to wake up, and Nas woke me up that year. My wife was the one who bought me those tickets. Ebony, thank you, I love you. And it changed everything from that moment forward, and it's why I'm sitting here.
I love that.
Thank you.
And so, rewinding a little bit, I wanted to ask this in part 1 when we were talking about treatment on demand, hip hop club, but also just your relationship with the Latinx community here. Was it difficult, or did it take time in order for you to find your people, or did it happen quickly and naturally?
It took, well, no, I think it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
Was it quick? I started rhyming in 7th grade. I didn't get that really solid pat on the back until Eric Andrade patted me on the back in 12th grade.
Okay.
Right? And that's when I realized, I'm good? I thought I was just good to me. He was like, no, you're amazing. The things that you're speaking on, the way you rhyme, how you can just improvise off the dome, bro. He gave me my first pat on the back. And from there, I was like, okay. So I had a small crowd then. New Bedford is not a rap-centric city.
Okay.
It's really not. It's not like rappers are getting booked left and right. I'm one of few. I'm one of the very few. And I'm one of the first to do certain things. I'm the first to perform original music with my crew at the New Bedford Art Museum. I'm the first to work with the Symphony Orchestra. I'm the first to get called by the Zeiterion, right? There's so many firsts that I did. Hip-hop's been around for 50 years. I've been around for 36. How? How, Sway? So I didn't understand that, and it took me a while to understand that New Bedford just isn't, the demographic doesn't love hip-hop, and that's okay. It's on me to make them love it. So eventually, I found my crowd. But it wasn't because I was making great hip-hop music. It's the Maya Angelou. People remembered more how I made them feel than what I said. People weren't listening. Still till this day, you like the song Grateful that I made. That record by digital streaming platform numbers has bombed. It's bad.
Sure.
Nobody listens to, or the people that listen to it are a niche crowd. That is not why I get booked. I hadn't released a song for a year and a half before that moment. So there was a year and a half where I didn't put a single song out, but I still kept getting booked. And everybody still kept calling me for rap work, for hip hop work, for spoken word work. And I was getting paid more than I had ever gotten paid for making art, but it was not because I rapped really well. It was because I was a well human being and I just so happened to rap.
Sure. So you said you started rapping when you were in 7th grade?
Yes.
And was that the first art form that you started with?
I really wanted to make music, and my stepfather, Angel Adorno, Papi, I love you. He's a percussionist, and he wanted to put me into piano to give me some sort of discipline and some sort of structure. So on Belleville Ave, there was a place called the Music Shop, and I had a teacher named Peter, and Peter was awesome. And I took 4 years of piano. And I stopped playing piano because I told them that I wanted to start playing rap music.
Sure.
And the teacher Peter, I love you, but it hurt my feelings when you said, what does that mean? How are we supposed to play rap music? Ding, 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 and he hit one key in a monotone row, like, oh, I'm rapping.
Oh my goodness.
And I said, yo, we can play the music that's behind the words.
Yeah, like what are we talking about?
Right?
Yeah.
And he said no. So I quit. I quit playing piano. And I remember that was the first time in my life where I said I can make a decision. If I stay playing piano, I'm not really making a decision about my life. But if I quit playing piano, then I'm standing on 10.
Yeah.
And I'm not joking with you when I say that I want to do rap.
Yeah.
I mean it. So I quit, and I remember my stepdad, I remember my dad, who I call my dad still, Angel was not happy. He was very frustrated with me about that. But he let me be, he let me make my choice. That piano led me to later on at Ebony's house when she was just my girlfriend. Her stepbrother had put FL Studios 4 on her computer.
Sure, yeah.
And I knew how to work it because I knew how to play piano. Okay. So I learned how to make instrumentation because I already had a basis in music. I played flute for 2 years at Campbell Elementary School, and then I did percussion at that school as well back when the music programs were robustly funded. And then I said, I'm gonna rhyme. And I just kept doing it. And then over the last year or so, so many of my good friends are illustrators and muralists and visual artists.
Yeah.
David Guadalupe, Brian Tillett, Fitz Carmel Lamar, Eden Soares are all people who I love and admire. And I want to be like them. I want to be great like them. So I started picking up the pencils to draw, and I was horrible for months and months and months, and then it just clicked one day. So making portraits, I like drawing people.
Okay.
I like drawing people's faces in particular. That became another piece, and then even before that, making instrumentation and making beats was a big deal. And then you just start networking, and Ethan Diaguiar came around, and I started learning from Ethan Diaguiar, and then I started having an affinity to trying to film. And Matt DeSilva and Robin Martina Miranda, along with Ian Morgan, were photographers, and Emilio Torrado as well, who I like to call lenses, right? They're people who work with lenses.
Sure.
I wanted to be as great as them because I saw how great they made me look, so I wanted to learn how to shoot and edit and take into consideration lighting and tone and balance. So all of the art forms became my art forms, and I dabble in all of them, but rhyming is definitely, hip hop was definitely the first one that I said, this is speaking to me profoundly, and I can't leave it alone. I remember seeing Busta Rhymes on TV performing Flavor in Your Ear and changing the channel because I was like, I didn't get it. And then not that long after, like DMX with What's My Name, and DMX and I Be the Best, You See the Rest, they looking like they need a rest. That caught me so hard. And then hearing Limp Bizkit had a song with Method Man called All In Together, and that caught me. And I was just like, that's it, I'm hooked. I'm hooked. And rhyming has been my North Star for so long, and it just leads me to, I knew I was good at that. When I learned that I was good at that, I realized that I could be anything. I could do anything. So thank you, rhyme, and thank you, hip hop.
And so I'm glad you roped in the lenses, okay? Because I remember you posting something about how you really should be taking photographers with you and how important that marketing aspect is.
Yes.
And I wanted that to segue into fashion. When did fashion become important to you?
I was always a fashionista.
Okay.
Always. Kanye went on TV, said, I want to be the best dressed rapper that there is.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing that and saying, ditto. Ditto. I need fashion to
And
be
you
fun.
are living it, may I say so,
thank you.
yes.
So there was a long time there. I have color vision deficiency, which is a fancy way of saying color blindness. I can't see the difference between blues and purples. I can't see the difference between reds and greens and oranges. All almost look the same to me.
Interesting.
Yeah, so and that's why my astigmatism is so bad, Tony. That's what it affects. The cones in my eyes don't perceive the light the way everybody else's does. So I end up I don't see colors as well. I used to think that it's because I missed the day in elementary school where they were teaching colors. I swear, I said that all the time. I was like, Ma, you kept me home that day, and now I'm suffering because of it. But that's not the case. I then didn't have the vision for fashion, and there was people around me at that time who were swatting me down like I shouldn't be focused on that. Like they they really denigrated me for wanting to be fashionable. And then after my son was diagnosed with autism,
Okay.
I realized all the similarities between his diagnosis and the things that I was struggling with. I had been diagnosed with ADHD in the 90s, and I was taking Ritalin for so long and Adderall for even longer. And I feel like I went undiagnosed with autism. I feel like if I get a diagnosis now, I'm on the spectrum for sure, because I can see how it affects my son and how I understand him very well and how I understand things very well. And in learning about autism, learning that people on the spectrum generally lean towards fashion because of it's a way of masking. It's a way we can appear to be normal in public. It's a way we can instantly fit the norm. And we're already masking so much all the time. This does some of the work for me. People in my immediate circle at that time kind of made me feel bad, like I was trying to do something extra when I really just wanted to fit in, but also stand out in a way. Along the way, I was introduced to Rachel Xavier, who is a fashion designer here in Massachusetts. And she sent me some of her pieces. I rented some of the pieces from her, and we did a photo shoot, and then it just hit me that I was modeling and that I was dabbling in fashion. But also looking at pictures of myself and seeing the impact that they had when I was dressed well, when I looked good, when I felt good, when I coordinated my outfit.
Yeah.
It took things that much further.
Yes.
It really helped. It made me look and feel and idealized in people's minds a certain way.
Yeah.
And that helps things go faster.
It does.
And I'm not going to be abrasive about it. I want to make things as easy as I can for myself. Plus, when I look in the mirror, there's times where I'm like, that's what I look like on a Tuesday? God, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Man. I mean, my mother was a model when she was pregnant with me. She dropped out of modeling school to be my mother.
Yeah.
So that history was already there, and it took me a long time to realize it. But this is who I am, and when I wasn't being fashion forward, I was suppressing who I truly was, and I did not want to continue to do that. So my wardrobe is particular. What I wear is particular. I generally try to wear all black all winter long. Like that's just what I do for the winter, and in the summer times I wear color. But my performances, every time that you see me dress, anytime you see me in a picture, that was coordinated as heck. I thought about it for a long time.
Yeah. And so I've been wanting to ask, did you, after high school, you started working, so you never went to college?
Never. I was lucky enough that the New England Foundation for the Arts gave me a continuing education grant, and I was able to take that and go to Berklee College of Music for a semester.
Sure.
So that I can get mixing. I took Mixing 101. And I regret every day of my life that I did not go to college.
Wow.
I do, because I could have been a little bit further. I could have been a little bit more educated. My wife's in college right now.
Sure.
And when your wife goes to college, you go to college. When your wife goes to school, you're in school.
Okay.
So I get to listen to her be in class. I get to learn the things that she learns, you know, at a smaller scale, because she's more engaged than I am, and I'm watching the kids and doing other things. But just to see her in astrology class and learn the things that she learned, to now know that she's learning about the Elizabethan laws and learning about the history of this country and things like that, and how educated she's becoming and how it's affecting her critical thinking, right? Working in an administrative position, an administrative assistant position, would have benefited me 1,000 times more to go to college and learn the little things that I needed to learn at work the hard way.
Yeah.
And it did not benefit me to not go to college. It really didn't. And until this day, it's something that people are like, well, I have no regrets. I do. I do. I regret that I did not go to college. I regret that, and I tell young people all the time, don't do that to yourself. Find a way to afford it. Get yourself some scholarship. Get yourself some private funding if you can. See if some of the alumni for the school that you want to go to will fund you. Right now, if I could choose to go anywhere, I would love to go to the College of Visual Performing Arts at UMass Dartmouth and either get a degree in visual arts. I know that performing arts program is very small, and that maybe me doing visual art doesn't feed my music, but I love the program there. I love the people there. I love the campus. I love the energy. If I had the funding for it, which it's something that's in my upcoming goals for the next couple of years, is to try to figure out a way to get in, make it affordable,
Great.
and try to possibly get a visual art degree. I mean, Fallon Navarro has a master's in fine arts. So I joke with her all the time that she is a master of fine arts, right? And I would love that. That's my ultimate dream, is to have a master in fine arts. I know that it would feed the career that I'm in right now thoroughly. And yes, CVPA, if you're listening.
And so I'm glad that you brought up finding that funding, okay? One, you answered I was going to ask what would you go for, but
Yes.
you absolutely already had that ready. But
Thank you.
when looking for funding, you've brought up that you work with grants.
Yes.
Okay. So talk a little bit about that. Are you a grant writer, or what
Yes.
exactly does that mean?
So I'm a grant manager.
Okay.
And I manage grants that are placemaking / place finding, placekeeping. So placemaking and placekeeping grants will take a place like this per se, and you'll write a grant that'll say that I'm trying to keep this place community-based and open to the community. I want to provide programming for the community so that they can come here and film a TV show.
Okay.
That's placekeeping because this place is already established here. But let's say we wanted to take an empty space and make it as equitable as possible and bring people in to perform. Make it a storefront for local artists. That's placemaking, right? And then the other half of the grant is barriers that are being addressed with art. So there's space downtown that they use to have AHA night. The barrier is that a lot of hip hop artists are not involved. So I want to address that barrier by asking for funding to provide it to hip hop artists to then become integrated into the community so that people can see that hip hop is as American as apple pie. It's as American as baseball.
Yes,
Right? It's
it
American
is.
as a hot dog.
Yeah.
It's based here. It came from us. So, and yes, the history of toasting comes from Jamaica, right? And it comes, and Kool Herc brought some of that over from the traditions that he had from his family. So, but the hip hop started in the Bronx.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And all right, so that's America. So it's an American thing. And grants are money that you get that you don't have to pay back. And you buy materials, you get to keep those materials, or whoever you give those materials to. And grants are a beautiful thing to use to get funding. And the grant that I got was the Spatial Justice for Art grant from the New England Foundation for the Arts. And the pitch that I made was, spatial justice, yeah, AHA has an event downtown every month, and I never get a call to be part of it. And they don't have the funding for it. So I'd like to have funding to buy speakers, a mixer, microphone, a computer. I'd like to pay my friends to help me facilitate it. I'd like to pay Matt DeSilva to shoot photographs. I'd like to pay rappers to perform.
Sure.
Right? And that allowed us to have what we needed to get downtown and be part of that. So there's plenty of grants from plenty of places. New England Foundation for the Arts, the National Endowment for the Arts. They do federal funding, so that's a little trickier. Mass Cultural Council provides funding for projects, but also they do these almost honorarium grants. Well, they gave me $5,000 unrestricted, and unrestricted money means you could do whatever you want with it. Local cultural councils also do the same thing, and they provide programming, money for programming, and it's something I encourage people to always look into. They're great. Yes, I write grants. It's not easy. It's very competitive, but positioning yourself social media-wise with supplemental materials that have proof of concept and with good partners are probably the three best things that I can tell people to do.
And so you said that you did get that grant.
Yes.
And that vision that you just said that you wanted to do with AHA Night, is that something you're working on right now?
No, so we did it in 2023.
Okay, great.
Right, and we did 6 ciphers once a month from April to September, and I think that we had a rain date, so we did the last one in October.
Sure.
Right, and I performed at that one, and it was magical. And yes, I asked them for $18,000, and they gave me 20, which is unheard of. Yep. Yes. And NEFA also gave me the continuing education grant to go to Berklee College of Music. They gave me $1,500 there. Then New Bedford Creative gave me $4,000 because they had something called ArtNet, which was money given by the federal government to the city for artists to recover from the pandemic.
Sure.
And then Mass Cultural Council gave me the creative sector, I think that's what it was called at the time, the creative sector grant. And what that was $5,000 unrestricted. So it was a total of about $30,000. Since then, I've written one more grant, and that grant's going to go to programming for Latinx History Month. I didn't get it personally. It was through work. I did it as the initiative because I'm the chair for the Arts and Culture Subcommittee for an initiative called Love the Ave.
Okay.
I live off the Ave of New Bedford, and this is an arts-based initiative and a business-based, an economic development-based initiative done through Mass Development, TDI, who does a lot of funding for businesses and a lot of funding for this type of stuff. But in New Bedford, arts and culture is important. So you can't, it's like almost impossible in New Bedford to fund business without funding art, because art and culture is part of the economic development of New Bedford.
Absolutely.
So that grant's gonna go to something that we called last year, and we're probably gonna call it again this year, Sabor y Ritmo Latino, which means flavor and rhythm, Latin flavor and rhythm. So it'll be a Latinx-based celebration in September during Latinx History Month, and it's something that I'm probably the most proud of, because I love that I'm feeding some funding into my community. It's something I did through work for the local culture, through the local cultural council of New Bedford. So New Bedford Local Cultural Council gave us $3,600 to do that.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
And so we're wrapping up part 2, okay? And we talked about so much. Now, looking towards the future, I know we don't like labels, but I want to ask you what people can expect from you in the future. But really quickly, if you could sum up your top 3 adjectives that people could use to describe you, what would you say?
So looking forward in the future, I'm going to continue to be a grant writer, a grant manager, but definitely a wealth of knowledge for grants. I am not a gatekeeper for grant information.
Okay.
I'm an open book about that.
Okay.
I don't find it appropriate to not let people know about grants and not let them know about the things that I'm going after and how I'm going after them. I want it to be equitable because I love my people. Then there's the other side of me that's very competitive, and I was like, no, I want everybody to compete, because if they give me the grant, then I know what's up.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I know
sure.
that I know who I am, bro.
Yeah,
So, and if somebody else gets it, then great. That gives me room to either grow. But grants don't always work out like that. Sometimes it's just somebody else's turn, and that's it. You can't take it personally. Sometimes somebody else just wrote a better grant than you. Not that you wrote a bad one, but somebody else wrote one, and they got maybe 0.2 points higher than you, and that's who got funded. That was it. That was the line.
Okay.
So I will continue to be a wealth of knowledge for my community and beyond. For grants, reach out to me.
Okay.
I'm not trying to charge people to consult.
Okay.
I want them to have the knowledge.
That's great to know.
My time is valuable, but I will donate that for the people.
Okay.
I will continue. I want to continue to be a recording artist.
Sure.
I want to. I mean, on a personal level, sync placements are the things that I'm really trying to get in the mix with. And sync placements are getting your music placed during March Madness, on ESPN commercials, during the NBA Finals.
Sure.
There's a gentleman that I know named Gallo Loch Ness out of Philadelphia who does the consultation and the connections. And it's something that does cost money, but it's an investment in my own future. So I want to continue to do that. I have a creative practice, a creative group of people called Sleepless in New England, and that is Matt DeSilva from Everclear Studios, Robin Martina Miranda from Salty Lip Studios, Tyrone and Ministro Gerard from El Ministro, and Bristol County Castro. And we are a creative collective, and whatever one of us is doing, we usually all get involved.
Sure.
And that's who I bring with me whenever I do shows.
Okay.
Because I realize that if it's, what's the saying, pics or it didn't happen? Yeah. So I make sure that I have pics of everything that I do. I want to continue with my brothers and sisters in Sleepless in New England, because I would not be anything without them. Like, they saved my life. I want to continue. I'm going to continue to be as community involved as possible. A brother of mine told me that some of us need to be Underground Railroad soldiers and ninjas.
Sure.
So there's a mixture of that I'm always down to be. And I'm working in the trenches and behind the scenes to push things forward. You know, again, I grew up in that era of if you weren't trying to be the greatest, then you weren't trying.
Sure.
And I know it's not the sexy thing to say. It's not like the honorable thing to say. I'm not worried about being that. I'm worried about being Hendrick.
Yeah.
And being Hendrick has always been, I need to go get it. I
Yes,
need
sir.
to go do it. I don't need the ball in my hands the first 3 quarters, but I need it in the fourth.
Yeah.
And if we need a win, I need to shoot the ball, bro.
Yeah.
And if I'm double teamed, I'll pass
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have no problem passing the rock. But I know who I am, and I can feel that fire in my heart. And if I could go back to look at 15-year-old me in the eyes, I tell him, you're going to lose your hair, but you have the city at your fingertips, and it's because you have that fire in your heart. So continue forth. And I will always continue to be a fire starter in the best way, just to warm my community and not burn things down.
Sure.
I want my community to feel the warmth of the sun. I know that sometimes that fire needs to be tamed. I will continue to tame it to the best of my ability. But to be the overall, to be a figure in New Bedford, by New Bedford and for New Bedford,
Yes, sir.
is the ultimate. New Bedford is my why. The people in New Bedford will always be my why. Arts and culture will always be my why. As long as I can stay in that light and continue to feed it and to get to the youth, that's really the main thing for my future. I want to get to the youth. I have a great connection going right now with the Global Charter Learning Public School on Ashley Boulevard, and I'm going to be teaching some workshops there on the core competencies that artists need to navigate this industry at a local level, how to answer emails, how to answer call for arts, how to structure your email, how to present on social media. They need to learn that now, because there's the mess around and find out moments that we get into in our adulthoods that could be avoided if somebody already messed around, found out, and told us.
Yeah.
So connecting with the youth is the biggest thing that I have on my plate. And I need to get into CVPA.
Yeah.
I need to get into CVPA. I've worked with them before.
Sure.
I've worked with Professor Warby and Roger Andrews, who are amazing professors there. And I know Ann Kim, who's I believe is the associate or assistant director there. And I think they're great, and I want to badly get in there to do some work with them, but I want to be a student and I want to learn. So, the funding for that is a big deal for me right now. And I will continue to hunt down grants and let my community know where the paper is at, because we need to get to the dough.
Yes, sir. Everyone, this has been an interview with Hendrick Hernandez-Resto. I hope everyone enjoyed. I know I did. And he is clearly a wealth of knowledge, history, and most of all, love. Hendrick, it has been a pleasure to have you.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. Catch us on the next episode of Wake Up New Bedford.